Are you afraid you have to work until 60, 65, or even 70 before you can retire? Or even worse, never retire? Are you afraid you run out of money in retirement and put yourself and your family in harm's way or even shame? Do you believe the so called financial experts like David Ramsey or Suze Orman that they say that you need between $5 to $6 million to retire comfortably? Let me tell you, they are wrong and by a long shot. I refuse to work for another 30 years to maybe and just maybe retire in my late 60s or 70s. I knew there's gonna be a better way around. I went into this rabbit hole to find the answers that I need for my life. So let me start with the two biggest lies or misconceptions, just to put it nicely, that keep you and me and everyone working for way longer than we need be just to be feeding the system. By the way, I'm Andre and I just turned 47. I went from being broke in my late 30s and in that to saving 70% of my income and being on the verge of achieving financial independence. And I'm planning to retire by age 50, just 3 years away. If you like content like this about financial independence and early retirement, please hit the like button below and subscribe for more content on a weekly basis. Before we dive into the two biggest misconceptions or lies about retirement, we need to talk about a premise that, in my view, keeps everyone working for many, many years unnecessarily. It goes by something like this: the perfect age of early retirement is 65, so you can enjoy your golden years. I reject that premise 100%. And let me explain. First of all, I actually don't like the term golden years. What if, like me, your idea of retirement surrounds a very active lifestyle, such as going for long bike rides, hiking through the mountains, surfing, skiing, playing tennis or pickleball. I mean, there are endless activities depending on what you like to do, but a very active lifestyle is also very demanding on your body. Surely, at some point in my 70s or 80s, if I live that long, I can enjoy more of a traditional retirement, such as stroll through downtown, go to museums and churches and shopping and nice restaurants, which I see that more of a phase two of a retirement. However, I want to make sure that I can live a very active lifestyle in phase one. And that's why, in my view, I must retire early. Also, one added benefit of having a active lifestyle in retirement is that it's way less costly than either your working years, where you have all your expenses related to your work, commuting, all the taxes, contributions to your retirement accounts, and all of that, where your net take was actually much less than your salary, and also the retirement, the typical retirement, where you basically go uh, trips, fancy restaurants, shopping, that kind of a expectation, right, of a normal retirement. So having an active lifestyle also helps your finance and your retirement budget as well. Now that we got this out of the way, let's dive into the two biggest misconceptions or lies about retirement. Number one, you need to save 25 times your gross salary before retirement so that you can live comfortably. Let's say your average salary is 80,000. I know it's a little bit higher than the average salary, but by the time you reach your 40s and 50s, you had already moved jobs or got raises along the way. So let's consider 80,000. However, this math and what we're going to discuss now applies to any salary level, no matter how much your income or your tax bracket. Following the 25 times of your gross salary rule, on an $80,000 annual salary, you basically need $2 million. Yes, 80,000 times 25. Now, here's where it gets interesting. 90% of the people don't even amount this much in life if they work through their 90s and save every single penny. That simply makes no sense. The driver of how much you need in retirement, it's not your salary, your latest salary, is basically your expenses. That's the driver of your number, your magic number. I can debunk this one very quickly using my own life as an example. Because of my lifestyle and the choices that I've made along the way, I comfortably live on 30% of my salary. So using the same $80,000 as an example, and living on 30% of that times 25 times, it's basically $600,000. So that's a whopping $1.4 million difference. Now, let's now think about the typical or the average salary of about $50,000 per year. If you spend or if you live on 30% of that, that means you even need less money to retire. So on a $50,000 and 30%, you only need $375,000 to retire. So again, the driver for your retirement goal, your magic number, is not your latest annual salary, is your expenses, period. So by having the wrong number as your target goal, a few things happen, and that's with everyone. First of all, it discourages you from even trying to achieve your financial independence and your early retirement, right? So, and why is that? So, if you keep hearing, oh, you need 1.5 million, you need $2 million or $3 million, well, you most people would not even get started on that journey. They're just gonna live life, like everyone else. So having a realistic number really motivates you. You see how achievable that is. Number two, having the wrong target keeps you working way longer than needed, right? So if you have, again, $2 million target incorrectly, well, you might think that you need to work until you are like mid 60s or 70s or even worse. So again, that can set the tone, right, of how many years you really, really need to work. And number three, which I think that's maybe their intent with coming up with this crazy rules, is that keeps you in the rat race for longer. You're just paying your taxes, over consuming, right? You're just like there in the society, stuck in the system, and you cannot leave the rat race. And that's maybe also what they want. So again, having a realistic um, target goal for your retirement based on expenses that will help you quit your 9 to 5 and basically enjoy life on your terms as soon as possible. Now, moving along, number two, the second biggest misconception or lies about retirement. Consider your retirement income as 80% of your latest gross salary before retirement, right? So, again, let's use now a just for easier math. Let's use $100,000 as an example, right? So if your latest gross income is 100,000, basically what they're telling you, or this 80% rule is telling you, is that you need $80,000 every year after that so that you can retire comfortably. Again, this is a huge misconception, and I'll tell you why. First of all, when you are working, you're not living on the $100,000. That's your gross salary. That's your gross salary, and this is your net take home pay. In between, you have federal income tax, right? The IRS, they always do first dibs. They want the taxes right away. The same for the state tax, depending on the state that you live in the US. 41 states actually have income tax. So then most likely you need to pay federal, state income tax, and in some locations, like in Philadelphia and some other places, there's also local taxes. So again, three different taxes that are taken from your paycheck before the money hits your account. Well, you also have FICA, right? Or Social Security and Medicare. Social Security is basically 6.2%, and Medicare 1.45%. Here we go. This is another 7.65 that's taken from your paycheck. And if you are self-employed, you actually pay it double. So you pay the employee and the employer contribution. So that becomes, 15%. Huge. If you are lucky and your employer has a retirement plan, like a 401k, then you also contribute to your 401k plan. So that's a money that's coming from your paycheck directly into your 401k account. you don't really get to see the money. And even if your employer does not have a retirement plan, then you can then contribute separately, open up a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, right? And then you can contribute. In the case of a Roth, right, there is a limit, and that's currently $7,500. So that's again, that's if you are contributing to the max, $7,500 of your paycheck that you don't get to see at all. So those are money between your federal, state, local, Social Security, Medicare, retirement. Well, I'm not even going to like your medical and dental plan contributions and other things. So just between those alone, of course, depending on your income level and your tax bracket, I would say that between 30 to 40% of your salary never hit your bank account, right? So imagine again on a $100,000 example, right? And let's say it's on the lower end, right? 30%. Well, if you make $100,000 gross salary, you only get to uh, benefit or spend or have $70,000 of your income. The other 30, you never get to see it. It disappears, thin air. So again, that 80% rule of your gross salary is already wrong just to start with. Like you're already living on 70% when you are employed. And when you are employed or when you're working, your working years, you have a whole lot of other expenses that you will not have when you retire, right? Just a few commuting expenses, right? With the gas prices, and most people living far from their work because of house prices, like rent or housing, you end up, having to live far from your employment, commuting expenses, parking fees, gas. You also have the typical, right, lunch at work and the coffee in the morning, coffee in the afternoon, snacks. So that also it's another like $20 to $30 a day that you spend. It doesn't seem much when you kind of think just about one day, but that's every month, 12 months in the year. So again, the 80% gross salary rule that experts refer to, it doesn't make sense at all, right? We just discussed how most people are already living on 60 to 70% of their gross salary when they are on their working years, right? And again, when you are working, you have along those other expenses that I mentioned before, you also tend to keep up with the Jonases or have some kind of mindless spending habits, right? Going out to eat multiple times a week, drive nicer cars so you can impress your colleagues at work or your family and friends, or you basically just want to look apart, buy expensive clothes, jewelry, watches, handbags. Like all of that disappears when you go to retirement, especially when you retire early with an expectation of having a very active lifestyle. Like you no longer care about all of that, right? All you want to do is spend time in nature, practice sport, have a very active lifestyle in which all of it is either free or costs very, very, very few compared to your regular working years. Here we go. These are two of the many findings and breakthroughs I came across when I started looking deeply into the lies everyone tells you about retirement. If you like this content and it add value to you, please hit the like button below and subscribe for more content like this. I'll be publishing on a weekly basis. So let's go on this journey together. Let's achieve financial independence and retire early on our terms so that we can enjoy freedom, life, and are healthy in retirement.